What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and as always, it's my continuing mission to bring you reviews that aren't 2 minutes long and, of course, filled with sponsored bullcrap. Welcome to the future of batshit crazy. It's Observer from the devs who made Layers of Fear. That's that one game that many times was missing the one layer it needed, scary shit. But the real question is, does Observer do it better? Let's find out and see. It's a first-person cyber horror game from Bloober Team, and it's out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One for the suggested retail price of around $29.99. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's my review for Observer, the world's worst touchscreen location, the mother of all stomach aches, and the truth of futuristic canned food drives. Graphics are at first. You know, while absolutely not really knocking your socks off with any kind of special effects or technical wizardry, Observer goes for a two-layered approach in its presentation. The first being offering you, the gamer, a uniquely lit exploratory main view as you run around as the main character. Everything has this fine-grained lighting to it that sometimes reminds you of Resident Evil 7 in its color scheme, and other times feels a bit like a Silent Hills PT demo ripoff. It's also rare that we see a game like this tell a story graphically by not throwing things in your face, well, it does that too, but by more of a subtle screen trickery that you see with effects. Take, for example, the two types of detective vision you have. One can highlight technological items, the other is a biomatter sensor for things like blood, brains, and yeah, probably shit. Now, both restrict your view immensely and reminds us that while Predator vision looked cool in the movies, a lot of times we looked at it and went, how the fuck do you see anything? This also calls into question the story elements of the cooperation that Dan works for, and in an almost Darth Vader way, improvements are such a double-edged sword here. With each mechanical addition you rivet bolt to your face, might also cause a bit of humanity to leak out the other side. And it's also the stunning use of duality in the worldview itself. You have those views, but you also have the ability as the main character to jack into people's heads. And for the first time, maybe in forever, we finally see what it would be like running around the dusty cobwebs of aunt and uncles with mysterious pasts. And it really is impressive. And every dream sequence or jacking sequence prior to this one just didn't really get it right in games, usually missing the surreal and going for either a direct, let's show you about that one time you're mean right before your dad died, in your face moments, or something that we just couldn't really understand with a shaky head like Jacob's Ladder. But Observer plain nails it. It sometimes fools you by mimicking the normal view of the game proper as well, other times doing its best to show you what Tron and Cthulhu would look like if they had a baby. Also, texture work is actually pretty good. There are a few that look like been run through a cottage cheese filter and then slammed into the screen, but mostly they're hidden inside areas or rock and rubble, but you do notice it sometimes. But luckily, that just does not stop the game from nailing it. The first time you come close to a semi-truck-sized heart or the amazing flipping and flapping bits of a loose part on a man's robotics that are probably years past the required maintenance, it's hard not to be impressed. It's just overall a surreal experience, and everything from the gurgling, mysterious black contents of a local honeypot or the questionable number of pigeons that inhabit a courtyard like a friggin' Prince MTV music video. Now on the i7 at 4.2 and using an NVIDIA 1080, I was able to get it almost always smooth at a frame rate of 60 at 1440p, with a couple settings needing to be turned down. While on the consoles, the game actually has some moments of struggle and many times is directly connected to effects when water or a very specific soft lighting system is shown, and I have a feeling on the console that's probably going to be patched because it seems like a bug. As a package, Observer is really impressive. It nails the dark future of mankind divided not by cyborgs versus humans, but by humans versus technology, and it shows you that graphically on the screen without having to tell you, which is something we don't see a lot of times. Additionally, those different ways in which you can view the game world, and including jacking into other people's brains, are done spectacularly well and offer a level of subtlety that we don't see a lot of times. Sound, music, and voice.
Calls in the last hour?
No, I have not.
Could you check your compass for connections? Somebody may have used it as a proxy.
I don't have a compass.
Ma'am, is everything all right in there? Are you in?
And you know what? Let's hit music first. Now this is hit and miss. While the ambient throb of a good part of the game is interspersed by the barest of loops and beats, and that really didn't do much for me, honestly, I just wanted something more filling. I did actually enjoy, though, the brief shock of a happy-go-lucky song playing in a tattoo parlor, which just drives home the oddness of the desiccated body inside of it. The moments when the game music does rear its head, it does well, and there's a couple particular parts that sound almost like dying animals that min to and out of the track, and Damn, that was straight up creepy. Really well done. I just wish there was more of it. Voice. So I got to admit, I love Rutger Hauer, and at first I was utterly disappointed. It's not like he's ever been known to have anything but the emotional range of someone passing a wedding buffet for the first time, but his delivery here, which lodges firmly on the side of stoic, can really be incredibly off-putting at first. But I get it now, and after playing and learning some things about the entire plot, story, and characters, I honestly think this is brilliantly done. I don't know if they told him to do it or if they got him because of this, but it really works. Now, I know some people will probably be incredibly divided on this, some not able to stand his best Mickey Rourke impression as he mumbletrons his way through a series of narrative choices. It all made sense once I understood the story. Additionally, for the most part, the side characters are all voiced incredibly well, even to the point of frustration. When you need to ask a landlord some questions and you realize not only is this dude insane, but Microsoft's game division is going to be making money before this dude ever finds the end of a sentence. And I get it, that's the design itself, but damn, it is not going to be for everybody. Sound. I admit this snuck up on me. It's actually brilliant, and it sneaks up because, sure, there's channel separation, and that's great, but since you're almost always inside of an apartment complex throughout the game, you may not notice that as much. What you do notice are things like occlusion, reflection, and location-based obstruction. There's nothing like hiding from a technological beast that's rampaging through a dream office, and you're hiding under a desk and listening to that friggin' thing breathing and shambling around, and you can hear it higher and lower or muffled by just enough desks to make you question if you could possibly peek your head out and take a gander. It's excellent work, and I really liked it. And of course, that brings us to gameplay and a bit about the story. Now, you play as Dan Mothermaru or something, sorry, I can't pronounce it, as voiced by Rutger Hauer. It's 2084, and a deadly digital plague known as the nanophage has riddled thousands of humans that have any kind of enhanced augments, while a massive war has also removed most nations and replaced them with the lovey-dovey named Chiron, which is pretty much what would happen if Apple had nukes and installed iTunes into everyone's heads. The interesting thing here is that most jobs require augmentations, but of course, you still have the chance of that disease that's possible to break out. And in the end, you have a series of strange, almost warlike lines drawn in civilization. And in Dan's investigation of a murder at one of the worst locations in the city, these are all played out. Now, as an observer working for this evil corporation, Dan can enter the minds of folks and find out information that's useful. And that's pretty much the crux of the game. Dan has to investigate the growing, with every second, disturbances at this location, all the while consistently suffering his own set of ill effects that result in graphical effects as you look around, and also solving a bit about your own family issues. For the most part, the game has you opening doors, reading emails, gathering evidence, and of course, what would a cyber horror style game be without hacking? Here, you're hacking doors, computers, and humans, and that's where the game's secondary gameplay setup sort of begins. Usually you find somebody, sometimes dying, and you can yell, "Yo dude, hold up, let's USB parallel so I can run around your insides for a second." And this is what going insane probably feels like. It's a mind trip, awash with digital corruption, levels shearing off in the middle of you walking through them, endless corridors that aren't endless at all but make you want to think they are. There is some seriously weird crap going on here, and you can experience the same event from different people's perspectives. The way it's outlined and the representation in their mind is going to actually be wholly different. These areas are actually where Observer can stumble a little bit. See, the game loves darkness and jump scares, and while jump scares actually didn't bother me in this game, the absolute moments of pitch black started to wear a little bit thin, if only because sometimes you were supposed to open a drawer or do something, and this results in you fidget spinning around like a friggin' crazy person until the icon for interaction pops up. It's a small quibble, but it actually happened a couple times. Also, while you can jack into folks' mind just skippity-doo-dah through the darkest dreams, it actually doesn't happen as much as I would like, and while the investigative moments are great, the narrative is also strangely lean. For example, when investigating the issues in the labyrinthian apartment complex, the discussions are very interesting, but I was surprised there was actually very little to actually say or do. And while some of this is backed up by Rutger's voiceovers or things you can read as you investigate, it felt many times like it was running off crib notes of something far more detailed. But just when there was a problem, the game continually surprised me. We hear all the time folks talking about atmospheric and environmental storytelling, and many times that's nothing more than throwing someone's family picture down and wow, interesting, having the character voice over the top of it. And at times, I forgot which actual world I was in, and that has never happened before. The game's mine locations are sprawling, and they take a good deal of time for most of them. And because sometimes they revert back to your normal view, making everything appear like a damn Black Mirror episode, I actually found myself sort of shyly hitting the augmented view button to find out which version of the world I was in. Was I in somebody's crazy cave, or had I been jettisoned out somehow? It is a rare title that does that, and Observer does it many times and hits in many of the places, honestly, Layers of Fear didn't, where both can be subtle and both can be in your face. There's a dexterity to the design in Observer that shows what experience can do on a second title. Fantastic stuff. Now, when it comes to the length of the game, it's about 4 to 8 hours. It really depends on how much you investigate. There is a lot to investigate here, even though I found some of it lean. It'll be sort of up to you on how much you go through it and how much you get out of it. Fun factor. Okay, so one of the first things you have to understand is that the first foray into someone's mind is by jacking into a guy who'd had his intestines looped at his feet like a friggin' spaghetti noodle. So first you need to know what you're getting into, which is an absolutely bleak representation of a futuristic world and society that reflects in almost everything. That being said, I had fun with it. Without hesitation, this feels the closest that I can remember to a true game trying hard to project a futuristic detective-style game on us. And while its horror won't hit for everyone, and it's sure at times you may be left scratching your head at some of the narrative or some of the locations that don't make sense in someone's mind, in the end, it was really funny to me that the one thing really impacting my fun is that I wanted to investigate more, to discover more, to jack into people's heads more, to find out more about the world. But it is far better than the alternative and just not giving a shit. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale, with rent being replaced by deep, deep sale for PC titles. So this is a buy, but if you're a high-level horror fan, this probably won't be for you. It's not that kind of game, despite them sort of saying that in their descriptions. It's a dual delivery. It's about human transformation terror mixed with the fact that no matter how many microwave ovens you duct tape to your head, if your heads are popped off like a friggin' dandelion, it's still pretty gross. And it meanders between those two sometimes, and I can see people being frustrated with Observer if they expect a true horror title. But I was not. So that's it for me. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe check out Twitter or Patreon. That's how I continue to give you guys reviews, especially with YouTube the way it is. If you dislike the video, give it a thumbs down. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.